friends, and thanks for joining me today. I am going to show you how to make these beautiful galaxy rocks with your at-home experience kit. So let's go over the items that you have in your bag. You should have 2 rocks, a pointed sponge brush, a rounded sponge brush, a traditional brush. You will have a paper plate with a couple of toothpicks to use for stirring and scraping. You will also have several paint colors. Yours are in these little condiment cups here, but I have mine in this little guy here. You will have black, light blue, dark blue, pink, and a white. Those are the colors that you have. So let's go ahead and get started. But before we do, you'll need a couple of things handy that are not included in your kit. You're going to need a little bit of water. I've just got mine in a medicine cup here. So you'll need a little bit of water. You will also need a paper towel, which you are going to use for cleaning your paintbrushes. And the other thing that you're going to need is some sort of medium-sized box because some of this is going to get a little messy. So this is what we're going for. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that you want to do is paint your rock black. Now this is my unpainted rock. I found when I tried this that putting the sponge paint directly on this, the paint doesn't quite stick as well. So we just want to go ahead and give it a nice even black coat. You want to do that with this pointed brush here. We're only going to use this pointed brush for the black paint, and the reason why is because we don't want to muddy up or make any of our other colors less vivid. So my rock is already dry. In between all of these coats, we want to make sure that your paint is dry before you put any other paint on. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to dip our rounded brush here in a little bit of pink. Doesn't need a whole lot, and that's actually kind of a lot for what we're working with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paper plate and I'm just going to dab the paintbrush on the paper plate just a couple of times here, so we don't have as much paint on there. There we go. If we see that, there's a little bit of space in there, and that's what we're going to go for. We're going to start in the middle and just kind of pick places here and there, no rhyme or reason, just nice and sporadic that we're going to add some paint on there. Feel free to go ahead, get a little bit more paint, dab it on your plate because we don't want super strong colors. We can always go back and add more layers later, and we most likely will. So that looks good for our pink. We're going to want to clean our brush, and I'm actually just using an old t-shirt here. All I'm doing is just squeezing the paintbrush in between these layers, and you're going to do this with your paper towel or your napkin that you have. Probably don't use a cloth napkin. That would make everybody at home very unhappy. So once our middle paint is dry, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with our blue paint. And we're going to do our light blue first because we're going to go ahead and add it around these edges right here. So dip it in here a little, go ahead, dab on the plate so we don't have a saturated color, and go ahead and just start dabbing on there, kind of no rhyme, no reason, just around here and there. You do have to be careful when you go for the same spot multiple times. One of the things that's going to happen is that you're going to end up not adding paint to the rock, but you're actually going to end up taking some off. Now I know, guys, I just put some on the back, but the reason why I did that is I like to make sure that this color kind of carries over the edge, that it doesn't just stop at the edge and fall off, that I'm seeing it kind of all the way around. So once I have some on there and I feel like it looks good, I'm going to go ahead and stop. Now, if you see what I did here, I got that blue a little bit too close to the pink. Don't worry, we're going to clean that up later. So once this dries, we are going to be ready for our next color, which, there we go. We're going to be ready for our next color, which is our dark blue. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get a little bit of this dark blue. Remember, you're cleaning your brush in between each time, but get your dark blue. Dab it on the plate a couple of times so it's not totally saturated. Now this part is going to go really fast because we're covering less of the rock. And we're also just doing the ends. So there we go. And remember, I'm getting the edges because I don't like it just to have a hard stop there at the end. I like it to be nice and rounded and even. So again, no rhyme or reason, just kind of dot some on there. Now, some people may say that at this point in time, well, hey, Patricia, now you can't see your blue here, or it looks a little weird and spongy. It doesn't have a good transition. It has more of a line. So to that, I say no problem. Once it dries, you're going to go ahead. This is the only time you're going to do this. See how this has blue on it? You're going to dip this the only time into your light blue, and then we're just going to go ahead and we're going to soften up these lines right here. So you're going to dip your paintbrush in your blue just a tiny bit. You're going to go ahead and dab it on your plate. And then you're going to go back over here and you're going to start dabbing. And look at that. We get a nice transition. One of the cool things about nature is that nothing is ever a solid color. So if we mess up, I mean, it's still pretty because this is what nature looks like. We have these nice, look at that, beautiful rounded edges here. Now, the next thing that we find that we may want to do is to go ahead and add a little bit of purple on here, just on the ends, because that's going to give us some really good dimension. And for that, we're going to use our toothpicks. Remember, I said they're for stirring, but in this case, we just want to take a little bit of blue, put it in the pink. You can scrape some of your paint off on your plate. That's probably what you're going to want to do. And by adding our blue to our pink, we're going to give ourselves a pretty purple, and it's also going to shimmer just a tiny bit, because I don't know if you guys notice, but your dark blue is actually a pretty shimmery blue. So look at that. So once you guys feel like you have a nice color, again, we're going to take our clean brush, we're going to dip it in our color. There we go, just like before. Dab it on the plate a couple times, maybe a couple extra times, because one of the things here with this, you're just going to do the very edges because you don't want to give it too much color. You just want to blend it nicely. Blend it nicely. If you want, you can dry your sponge brush off. That's what I'm doing. And then I'm dabbing and I'm just kind of helping it blend in so it looks a little bit more natural. So it looks good there. We've got a couple more things we're going to do before we're going to be done. Get my paintbrush here nice and clean. I'm going to go over this middle part. I'm going to make it a little bit more vibrant by getting more pink on there. So I get more pink on my brush. Just as I said before, go ahead and dab it on the plate because we don't want it too concentrated. And by doing this, it's going to give us some wonderful and beautiful dimension to our galaxy that we have. Now, once you're happy with how this looks, we've got one more thing we want to do. If I'm looking at my rock, I feel like it's a little too close right here, a little too messy right here, and I just want it to be a little bit more black in there. I feel like the colors are a little too close. So what I'm going to do is take my sponge brush. This is the only time you're going to use it for the black. But after this, you can get a little bit of soap and water and clean it out, just a tiny little bit of black. I don't know if you guys can see that, just the very tip. We're going to go ahead, dab it on our plate just as we've been doing all along. I'm going to dab it a little bit extra just because I just want to really kind of soften those lines there. And look at that. So I'm not getting a great big blob of black. I'm just getting, you know, little bit soft lines. Look how pretty that is. So we've got some purples here, shimmery purple, blue, light blue, dark blue. We've got that nice vivid pink in the middle. Now once this dries and you feel like the colors are good, that they stand out a lot, this is where things get really fun. So we are going to take our regular brush that we have here. Remember how I told you earlier we needed a little bit of water? So we are going to scrape out with a toothpick a little bit of your white out of this cup, put it on your plate. And then we're going to add just a tiny bit of water. I've actually already done that. And you're going to take one of your toothpicks and you are going to stir this up. So what you're trying to go for is a watery white. And if you see where I just did a little splashing here, that's actually what we're going for, friends. This is the really fun part, but it's also the really messy part, because the next thing that we're going to do, this is one of the last things that we're going to do, is we're going to add these beautiful white flecks on here. And what we're going to do, once we have this nice watery white here, we're going to take our traditional paintbrush, we're going to dip it in, and then we're going to fleck, just like that. Now this is dry, but you will want to make sure that it's wet, and you will also want to go ahead and make sure that you are putting your rock in a box. I'm going to live dangerously. Guys, don't do this at home. But I've got it dipped in there. And then I'm just going to flick. And you just do this until you feel like it looks good. And then if you feel like your whites are not as bright as what you would want them, no big deal. You just take your toothpick and you dip it in your white and you just add a little bit more bold color, or you can create new stars with your toothpick absolutely anywhere that you want. And that's it, friends. That is how you make these beautiful, great, wonderful, and dimensional galaxy rocks. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you soon.